The following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to NerdProm.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games, a show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both a player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Chris Holmes. How you doing, homie?
Oh, I'm doing good, and just what we were just talking about, feeling a little lethargic from all the sushi I just ate, which was great. Went with my buddy Dan to this place. It's called Tokyo Sushi in Champlin, off of Zane and 610. Everybody out there in the Minneapolis area. Holy crap! It's so awesome, so freaking good. I'm recovering from last night too, because stayed up till Odark 30 tinkering with Fantasy Grounds. You bastard.
But we did have a great time in our Terranoth game last night, dude.
Glorious, man. It was glorious.
Had a nice downtime session of people traveling around the city, getting rewards for their deeds that they did, getting paid, going to the various different markets, dealing with merchants, and topped it all off with a classic fight with a barn full of werewolves.
Yes, they were. It was great. We'll have to see how the fate of my character Vorn comes, because in about 5 in-game days, he may have to make another saving throw, or not saving throw. Sorry, Genesis, another resistance or discipline or whatever the heck I had to roll.
Resilience check.
Resilience. What did I say? Resistance?
But you failed the resilience check. You don't have to make another one. You have just 5 days of gestation before you start.
Well, hang on a minute now. I failed it, yes.
With an ass ton of advantage.
Was it advantage, or did I get a triumph?
It was all advantage.
That's right, I got 5 advantage. And a triumph, though. No.
No, not on that roll.
You were going to give me another roll, though. And
I am giving you rolls to figure it out, to get it cured before it happens.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, we talked about this. We were going to give you premonitions of what's to come, of you things like you craving meat all of a sudden, and you're instead of it taking just 2 days for it to gestate, like I was going to originally have it be, we pushed it out to 5, and then in game, and then we're going to give you all these premonitions.
Exactly.
So that Vorn might figure out that he has lycanthropy.
And this kind of segues into the name of our episode too. Experience builds character.
That's
you gave my character a reward there, Tony.
Could be a reward, although you were trying to become a virtuous knight. I don't know how you could do that and be a werewolf at the same time.
We'll see. Though I did save 5 experience points just in case I had to buy the shapeshifter as well.
Very nice.
Yes, and that's what the episode's going to be about. Rewards, experience rewards, and other kinds of rewards that us as GMs or DMs would give our characters.
Yeah, this is a listener-suggested topic that, forgive me, but the email got deleted, and I have no idea which one of you wonderful listeners suggested it, but you know who you are, and thank you very much, and we are here to talk about it.
Because we get so many emails.
What it is, it sat in the folder too long, auto-deleted.
Well, there's that. There's that.
Right.
But other than that, let me see. So news for this week, not so much. Nothing. But we do have plenty of listener feedback this week.
Oh, we did get them. rise to the challenge and give us some emails here.
Sweet. Liking this one. Go ahead.
Let's start with our first one from the one-eyed Pearson monster himself, Jamie Pearson.
Thank you, dude.
Listening to the latest episode and question for the show. How do you figure the 4 threat is the equivalent of a despair? Me personally, I've never done a trade-off like this, but I'm curious as to how you come to this. Also, when Matt did his Uncle Jay in a chicken mask thing during the Advantageous Threats, I would have said his rival was Peter Griffin. So, first of all, thanks for the email, Jamie. And we talked with Jamie back and forth about this, but what I had said in the show when you rolled in that Advantageous Threat, I believe it was I who rolled the 4 threat, but I said it is the effective equivalent of rolling a despair. Now, what I mean by that is if you look at almost all of your despair and threat charts in the books, there's overlap. When you're spending 1, 2, 3 advantage, it gets to that 3 and 4 advantage. A lot of times you can do that with a triumph also. Or it tells you, 1, 2, and then 3 threat, and then you get down to 3 or 4 threat, especially in like the combat one.
Yeah.
You're going to have some that are effectively similar. Now there are things that only a despair can do. There are things that only a triumph can do. I don't let people upgrade difficulties when they roll a despair triumph, or excuse me, when they roll a lot of advantage or a threat. I don't let them do it. That's the purvey of a despair or a triumph, or multiple despairs and triumphs. But I will let them increase the difficulty for 4 advantage or 4 threat. I will totally increase the difficulty by 1 die because it makes sense. It's not an upgrade, it's an extra die. And there's some things to be said about which is more difficult of a roll for the player, rolling more dice or rolling dice that have. I think honestly an upgrade is always worse than an increase because an upgrade leads to despair or triumph.
Yes, it does.
I should say always more powerful than, not worse than. Choose my words properly when Jamie's listening. Yeah,
exactly. And I totally see where he's coming from too. And yeah, there are those things that you should not trade off. The despair and triumph should be unique and special.
Totally.
And then and narratively as well, you can I always think of those being things that completely change the side of battle in a way, right? I mean, either the team evil or the good guys, right? Will get a definite benefit out of it, narratively or mechanically, how we're thinking. But yeah, when 4 threat or even 4 advantage come up, yeah, that's pretty rare too.
I look at the prime example for me of one of those unique situations where only a triumph would work. When you're casting a spell and you don't put the deadly, it deadly? Yes. You don't put the deadly modification,
yep,
to your spell. Your spell, the only way it's going to crit is if you roll a triumph. I don't care if you roll 7 advantage. You're going to have to spend that 7 advantage in other ways. You're not going to crit unless you get a triumph, because it says so implicitly in the rules that you have a triumph unless you apply this modifier to the spell. So it's one of those rules where if it states implicitly, this is something that a triumph can do, or this is something that a despair will do, I don't let the equivalence, that equivalence happen. But if it's, narratively, when you look at it, someone rolled 5 advantage. Oh, I'm going to give, you don't want, the last thing I want is, I have a player that rolled 7 advantage the other day in a game. I can't remember who it is, but I'm looking at him.
What? Really?
Rolls 7 advantage in a game. what are you going to do with all that? Are you going to do something really cool? No, you're going to come up with a really cool narrative, one really cool narrative, and then you're going to parse that out with game mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, hold on a second. Apologies, I was coughing there. What I was saying is that you're going to parse that out with game mechanics. So you'll add boost dice here and there. You'll maybe increase someone else's difficulty to do something, or maybe you will give the enemy setback dice as well as giving boost dice to friends, or maybe even doing things like knocking down an opponent, making them prone, things like that.
Disarming them, those kinds of things. They drop in their weapons, yeah.
Yeah, all of those things are narrative, but they have game mechanics that come into it. Yeah. And I just would never let the game mechanics of of threat and advantage do things that only a Triumph and a Despair could do mechanically.
Yep. And I'm pretty much along the same lines with you.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to add to that.
You could have the same narrative for both. You rolled a Triumph and you have all the same, I rolled a Triumph and so I knocked the guy down and he's on his butt and he's staggered. Okay. Fine. A Triumph and that much, maybe that was 2 Triumphs, but say you rolled 7 advantage, you could do the same thing, just doing it with little chunks here and there.
Yep.
All right. So that was that one. And then next we had from Michael McCullishin.
Oh, wow. That's a nice last name. I remember him. Yeah, that's good.
Yep. He says, hello again. First off, thank you for featuring my last message. The paste bin link has received a few thousand hits since you last featured it.
What?
So cool.
Those 10 listeners must have been clicking the shit out of that link then. Right?
Either that, they've got bots out there doing it on the interweb.
I'm glad you got thousands of hits because of us. That's great.
Yeah. Additionally, I quite enjoyed your attempts at pronouncing my name, especially with the Irish interpretation. Keep trying.
Did we get it? Did you get it right or no?
I don't know. He didn't say. But so this week I'm going to do it with a Japanese accent, which is Michael McCullishin.
There you go, Mike. Enjoy that one.
For the record, that is not racist because I have a Japanese grandmother, so I just did it as well as I could to try and mimic her voice.
No, you sounded good. You sounded like one of those samurai that I watched on 13 Assassins the other night.
Yeah, sweet movie.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
All right. It says, I come with another resource you and my fellow listeners would be interested in. I created a series of special rules for the Genesys system.
Okay.
Like
I've taken a look at some of these. Pretty interesting.
Epic melee rules, nations and organizations as characters, random tables with narrative dice. And I also have some rules ported over from the Star Wars system, like beast riding and mass combat, base construction, and buildings in combat. Tier 6 signature talents.
Yeah, those signature abilities, which are kind of like those heroic abilities, but not quite. Where these signature talents come in after you've selected a couple of tier 6, tier 5 talents. It's cool. It's pretty cool.
Yep. I gave him 2, maybe 3 thumbs up on this one. I gave a good look at that. It's good stuff. Mm-hmm. It's good. So he also says here, give a look over as I know they will enhance someone's gameplay. Comment mode is on, so anyone can feel free to improve the document. Just nice. And he sent us a link.
Yep.
Thanks again. Keep up the great work. Now we'll put the link in our show notes. And I do want to say, people keep it civil, say nice things. Guy's a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great. And, as far as I'll tell you what was really interesting was his nations and organizations of characters. Did you take a look at that?
Yeah.
That's an interesting take on it, where you can do combat as a company. What?
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. I'm not going to really say anything else, but go on in there.
It's very interesting. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right.
Well done, Michael.
Last but not least.
Yes.
From probably my favorite YouTube listener name in forever, the Captain Chunk.
There you go.
Over on YouTube. Left a comment on one of our episodes. It says, how do you use minis with Genesys? Do you use a grid? And I responded right there, but I also wanted to talk about it here on the show. So I have kind of a rule of thumb, kind of my own method. If I do throw down a map, which is the rare occasion that I'm at a table and I throw down a map,
for Genesis.
For Genesis, and it does have a grid on it, I first of all, I eyeball, but my eyeball automatically counts as I'm going. And so anything within 2 squares is going to be engaged range. Anything within roughly 4 squares is going to be short range. Anything roughly within 8 squares, you see what's going on here, it's getting exponential, is medium range. Out to 16 is long, and then out to 32 is extreme range. Now, that's just a rule of thumb. I don't always use it because there's sometimes I want an encounter to be more, I want a larger space to look, or I want a larger space to look smaller. You know what I mean? So I will only make those squares maybe go out to medium range, or I will make them or long range, or in the like a whole room, even though it goes out to 20 squares, it's all long range from one end to the other. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So then I just kind of eyeball it from there. There is no specific rules on this, and honestly, what works for you, but that works for me. Yeah. Chris, what do you think?
Well, what I've done normally, because with the relative range bars that you have, I mean the kind of the more abstract ranges you have in Genesis, really what you want to use the miniatures for is relative position between characters, if you want, right? Characters and the bad guys. Like, oh, he's to the left of me, he's to the right from me, and you can quickly see it when you lay down miniatures. You could use a grid, you don't necessarily have to. But if you do use a grid, if I'm not using a grid and I'm throwing miniatures down, typically it's theater of mind. It's like, okay, here's kind of where you guys are, here's where the bad guys are. When I am using a grid, I think of, yes, being a DM that I am, I'm thinking of, the 30-foot, range increments of bows or something. So for me, yeah, anything within a square or 2 is engaged range. Anything within, say, the 30 feet, or I guess on a grid, typically it's like 6 squares, would be short range. Anything between 30 and 90 feet, maybe, is medium range. And then anything between 90 and maybe 300 feet, because bows can shoot up to like 300 feet in like D&D and whatever, would be long range. And anything over 300 is just your extreme ranges and stuff and beyond. That's kind of what I do. And also what I do is if I am setting up the scene and I do have a map, I say from this end to this end is medium range. Figure it out. You know what I mean? Or whatever.
Right. So then the halfway point would be short.
Exactly.
And then everything anything within reach of you is going to be engaged range.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you really don't want to bog down the game too much, drawing things out. And I know some of us like to do that, and that's totally cool. I was just doing it the other night, running Tomb of Horrors and stuff. But really getting orienting your players to the area of interest of what's going on is pretty much all you need to do. And then it'll go from there.
Yep. So thank you, Captain Chunk. And we've got more coming from him in the future. I just didn't have time to put every comment he's put on our YouTube up here. He's got some good ones. Cool. So thank you all for the emails and messages. We have more to come in the future. We're going to sit on a couple of them because some of them have show suggestions in them, and we're going to do those in the future. So,
absolutely.
But what we have done is something cool.
You can kind of call it, could be 50 Pieces of Awesome.
Hell yeah, we have a new show segment, folks.
Yes, we do.
We're going to jump over on into that.
All right. All right, everybody, welcome back. This new segment is going to be called 50 Pieces of Awesome. This phrase I kind of use all the time. And basically, I find something cool on the internet and I share it with you.
Yep.
Genesis related. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of cool stuff on the internet, but
Right. So this segment is created by the fact that Chris keeps sending me all these emails about all these cool things that he finds on the internet. He shares them with me, and I'm like, this is sweet, this is great. But I want to share them with you listeners. So I've created this show segment to let Chris showcase his 50 pieces of awesome to you, the listener. So what did you have for us this week, Chris?
all right, yeah. Well, this week, this is something. So when I saw these show notes the other day, I'm like, oh, new segment, mine, awesome. Let's do this. The first thing that actually popped in my mind was something up on the Genesys forums by Makiwa. He or she, I believe, there looks like there was a female icon there, so her or he, doesn't matter. Created something called Warships and Merchant Ships of the Age of Sail. Now, I've played some Age of Sail role-playing in
Savage Worlds?
Savage Worlds, yeah. I did the 50 Fathoms and Pirates of the Spanish Main, and there was also another one out, Solomon Kane. I think I had a couple of sessions of that, too. So this really pulled my interest. And oh my gosh, this is a pretty cool document that that Makiwa has created here. Now, the last time it was updated, let me open it up real quick. I should have had it open, but let me open it up real quick. The last time it was updated was in May. And man, there's a lot of information in here too. So, first off, awesome layout. You did a great job organizing this information, making it feel kind of like Age of Sail-ish, if you want. It's kind of an old typewriter-esque font that she used, and so that was pretty cool. There are some special rules for like special ammunition where you have like your grape shot, heated shot. I didn't even know heated shot existed. And chain in your bar shots where you wanted to like take out masts. And then there's also rules that they put in here for operating with no mast, the handling, those kinds of things. So that's awesome. And then each entry has like a short paragraph of all of these ships. I mean, a lot of ships. Even put in here crewman minion stats.
Nice.
Sweet. We got coercion, melee, perception, operating, range, light, and vigilance. Perfect. Everybody has a pistol and a cutlass. Simple.
Nice.
3 soak,
Nice.
5 wounds. And then 2s across the board, 1 in presence, 1 melee defense. I love it. And then, so for each warship, for each ship here, different categories of ships, there's like a paragraph or two describing it. There's a photo, which is very, you could quickly see, oh wow, this is what it is, and it kind of gets you into that feeling. Then there, of course, the normal stats. You know, you have your silhouette, speed, armor, hit threshold, that kind of stuff, defense. Also, there's consumables. I think that's also in other stat blocks, but, you know, like 2 months. Encumbrance capacity of 50, crew complement, top speed in knots, which is kind of cool. And then what's sweet, which is really what really takes us to a whole new level, are the number of decks. And yes, everybody, you can have anything from a Silhouette 3 single-masted cutter to a Silhouette 7 ship of the line, the HMS Victory, complete with all 104 guns. And the way it's set up, the way that it's set up is each deck has a certain number of guns on it. The size of the guns, the damage, the range, the number of crits, the number of advantage it takes to do a crit, and then using those vehicle rules from the main book to do firing broadsides and firing all these guns. It's just cool. It really is cool. And at the very end, rules on building a deck with
nice
cannons on it. So Wonderful document. Highly recommend it. I'll definitely be putting it in our show notes.
So, Makiwa, thank you, and we award you 50 pieces of awesome this week. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, folks. So we're going to move on over into the book of Genesis, and we are going to discuss our listener topic, experience. And what's the name of this episode again? Oh, yeah. Experience builds character.
Yep.
All right, folks. Welcome to the book of Genesis. There, I did it too, Chris.
Oh, you did it so much better than me, though. Why have you been doing this?
I don't know. It's my angelic voice, maybe. I don't know.
13 episodes in, and that's the first we've heard from you.
All right. So this is we're going to talk about, because I wish I could remember who suggested it. I thought it was a great suggestion at the time, but suggestions on rewarding your PCs for their hard-earned efforts. How much XP to give, when to give it, money. Are there ways to reward that? Rewarding items, things like that. So we're going to talk about rewards in Genesis.
And rewarding lycanthropy, too.
Yeah. All right.
Some of you might think that's a reward. Could be the gift that keeps on giving.
Every player I've ever made a vampire or a werewolf has considered it a reward. Even when they were a paladin previously.
And I must say, I did not spend a story point to upgrade my check. Remember, I did not do that.
Yeah, if you had, might have made a difference.
You could have.
You hemmed and hawed over for a minute or two.
I did.
All right, over on page 125 in the GM section, we have this. This is all we have in the book as far as guidelines on how to award XP is a little sidebar. And I'm going to read what the book says entirely, and then we'll give our own.
Is it going to be in that Japanese accent again? I dare you.
No, I'm not doing that. Although I do channel my grandmother well, not everyone wants to hear me yell Mackie Donalds 14 times.
Our 5 or 10 listeners out there are going, no.
Yeah, because most of my mimicking her Japanese accent is her yelling at kids, because that's, she did a lot of that when we were young.
Awesome.
Chasing us down the street with a cane. She's so much fun.
Wonderful.
She's 97, going to be 98 next month.
What?
She's
Awesome.
she's up there. All right, so it says here, awarding experience points after each sessions. One of the fun things about RPGs is how characters grow and improve over time. We do this by awarding experience at the end of each session. Players receive this experience and then can spend it to improve their characters. At the end of 3 to 5 hours of gaming, we recommend you give each player 20 XP. If you want, your players can improve their characteristics more quickly. If you want them to, then give them 25. If you like slower improvements, then give them 15. So we have a slow track, a middle average track, and a fast track. Shorter sessions should also be awarded 5 XP less, and longer sessions could be 5 XP more. We can explain this, or we can explain how to spend the experience on page 44. So, yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. There's also another one that comes from Star Wars, and a lot of GMs I know that use this. Just go with 5 XP for every hour of gaming.
Perfect.
If you have a 6 hour session, then give 30 XP. Mm-hmm. It's a easy way to do it. And if it's a really good session, chuck on an extra 5 XP. If it's a really boring session and everybody's like, and it's mostly the player's fault, give them less.
Or none at all. Darn it, no.
No, I'm kidding.
Always got a reward.
Yeah, no, I always give the average, and then if I have a really cool session, I'll tack on an extra 5.
Yep.
But even if it was a boring session, give them the average.
And if you are, yeah, that's true. That is true. And if you're worried out there, GMs, about rewarding XP and having players who don't show up and their characters not getting that XP, I'll tell you, if you've played this game as long as we have, if there's a 60 to even 80 experience point difference between characters, you're really not going to see that much.
You don't notice it.
You really won't notice it.
It's not like D Shift 7D systems out there with the hit point attrition where if you've got that much XP difference of like 3 levels and that guy's going to have 20 to 30 extra hit points, it's not going to matter.
No, it really isn't.
Like that.
And even if you're worried about, am I giving too much? Who cares? Because really this isn't like an exponential power creep game as you get more and more experience points. There are kind of thresholds, kind of out there, where you might see a difference after about 100 XP or maybe 150 XP. As opposed
I find
to
after 150, after about 150, you move into like a middle tier. Because of course, when you're looking at like games like Terranoth, where they have those very cool heroic talents, abilities, you get past that 150 mark. Now you have people who can do their heroic ability like awesomely and do it multiple times in a session and can do it without spending 2 story points and so on and so forth. So there you get there are increments of XP. I like to call them kind of milestones. I know Chris does too.
Yep.
But there isn't really a problem with handing out. What I do, my rule, if someone sloughs off a session, just decides not to show, which rarely ever happens, I just don't give them XP. But if I have someone who wanted to be there and last minute got called into work, or we had a player that couldn't play all of a sudden because it was his wife's birthday, I'm not gonna punish them. If we have a really good session, I might give them half the XP I gave the players that week, just because it keeps the players in the ballpark. They're not gonna be all the same, but they're all gonna be close. So you're not worrying about, hey, so and so, I didn't show for 3 sessions, so I don't want to play anymore because I'm so far behind. Because I actually have had a player who refused to play after 3 sessions because he was too far behind, and I'm like, it really doesn't matter in the system.
No, it doesn't.
Do it.
Yeah, and saying that, Tony, it made me think of another tip that I don't think we have in the show notes here, is keep track of your earned XP, everybody. Because starting XP is different based on the species or races that you pick. So like my dwarf starts with 90. A human starts with 110. So when we're saying, I've got 200 XP. Well, why do you have 220? Well, because he started off with 20 more. You know what I mean? So keep it as earned XP as your gauge, instead of total XP.
What I try to do is I will have it on the character sheets. You have the bottom. Okay, you've got your XP remaining to be spent and your XP spent. And on the spent side, it'll have 2 lines. It'll be 2. There'll be character creation XP, and then there'll be earned XP. And that's it. I just keep it in 2 separate categories there when I've been doing it for characters.
That's cool.
Separated by a slash. You don't have to be super
however you do it
fancy about it. But yeah, you should keep them separate because the earned XP is where you get these milestones in some of the games like Terranoth and your Primeval Fool setting, and in my in
your Middle Earth setting.
My Middle Earth, yes, we have milestones. So,
so we'll talk about in setting the tone.
Yeah. So, how do we spend XP?
How do we spend XP? Well, how we would spend XP is first we'd go to page 44 in the book. All right. Which would probably be, darn it didn't go to page 44. There it is. That would be page 45 in the PDF.
Oh, yeah, it is page 45 in the book, actually.
Yeah.
But
so
it's where the chart is. Yeah,
so the chart on page 45, you could spend it by on your ranks and skills, or you could purchase talents. You can't. Okay. You can't. Even though on this table, this table 2-1, you can only spend XP on characteristics at character creation.
Right.
Okay. So how you increase a skill would be whatever rank you want to increase your skill to, you multiply that by 5. So if you want to go from 1 to 2, that'll be 10 XP. If it's a career skill. If it's not a career skill, you would just tack on another 5 XP to that.
Okay. So if I wanted to have a little chart on my character sheet for career skills, on the back of your character sheet, just write rank 1 5, rank 2 10, rank 3 15, rank 4 20, and then for non-career skills, it's 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. That's a good way of doing it.
Yep.
And then purchasing talents is another thing that you can choose. And that is 5 times the tier of the talent. And before you purchase a talent, of say tier 2, you need to have a greater number of tier 1 talents than the tier 2 talents after you've purchased it. So you have to have at least 2 tier 1 talents. You buy you have to leave 2 tier 1 talents and then buy a tier 2 talent. And then it just kind of goes up from there.
Yeah, the talent pyramid, which we have discussed in the previous show. All right, so that's pretty simple. Spending XP is easy, okay? Hoarding XP, feel free to do it, but don't do it for long because you will end up hurting yourself.
Exactly. Are there any other ways to spend XP in this game? Not via by the rules as written here.
Not rules as written. But there are other systems that we can port over from other games. There's the battle scars from from Star Wars, where you can spend XP on if you received a critical hit, you can spend XP to gain talents. Now, in that system, it was to gain a talent that was outside of your tier, outside of your tree. So you could just buy toughness. In this case, if I were to port that system over, because it uses the talent pyramid, I would probably keep it at the talents can be either a tier 1 or 2 talent, and you'll get one. I wouldn't really go too far, but you'll get one for the maybe a discounted price or something. I don't know. I
think what they did over there was the more severe of the crit you took, the cheaper the talent was.
That's what it was. I
think that's what it was. So like a daunting critical was 5 XP, but a easy critical was 20 XP.
Gotcha.
I think it was something along those lines. That's a cool system.
Yeah,
and then
so there's other things that you can. I mean, as GMs, you can create a type of reward system if you want to. Maybe there's an in-game reward system. Maybe you have a talent that you put out there that costs 5 XP that you can put investments, and it's just something where the character is going to gain monetary funds, things like that. Depends on your game.
Yep.
So that segues us into monies.
Oh, yes.
So there is nothing that tells us what monies to give.
And even how much.
I tend to give very little money as a GM. I will, whatever someone offers the players money to complete a task, I will pay them that much. And as far as finding money laying around, I don't normally do that. Usually my rewards are more substantial. It's either because, honestly, anything the players find along the way in the hands of someone they kill is going to be equipment that they're going to sell or use.
Yeah.
So why do I not give them money? Because if I make them lug money around, they can lug a lot more money around than they can swords. So you pick up a great sword, you're going to lug around a great sword. You pick up and it's going to be worth 300 silver or whatever it's worth.
Or you can trade it in for a bow.
or you could, that allows for interactions with NPCs to be trading, to be negotiating, using skills that players don't normally use very often. So I try to give more physical, tangible rewards than just money, silver, gold, units, credits, whatever it may be, depending on the system.
And it kind of depends on the genre as well. So if you're porting over a system or a genre like, I don't know, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, or maybe even Primeval Thule, you might, if your players are interested in settings like that, they're interested in maybe a more gritty setting where they are scratching and clawing at stuff. So maybe the rewards of money, the finding money, is a huge reward to them, even though it's maybe a couple copper. Because that means you're going to put food in their mouth. Now, do you want to play that kind of game? That's totally up to you. I mean, mileage may vary on all of this. So it's however you want to turn that dial. You could dial it up to 11 or crank it to mute. Like my personal case, right? He's getting the money. No, I mean you gave a plenty amount of money. We're getting some, and we had yeah, my character was able to spend plenty while he was trying to find. Oh, and you know what? That's a perfect. There's a nice little thing. Another type of reward. So here's an example. Like last night, my character, a couple of our characters wanted to create like this bear strength potion, right? So we had to go find a very rare wine to take to this dryad because she had the recipe, and we were going to use alchemy to create the thing. Well, okay, so we had to go down to the seedier side of town and buy these thimbles of this Fey wine. And, yeah, much hilarity ensued after that. But we were rewarded after spending all of our money. And others gaining more money. We won't say who, Jen. And Puss in Boots. They won't say how either, but our reward was that recipe, and or it was the recipe after that fact. You know, after we took it out there, which we pretty much it was more narrative than anything. You know, we got the recipe and we were able to make some potions, which was pretty cool. And you know, I haven't really had one of those types of sessions before where, you know, low combat, high social interaction and getting things done and being rewarded with cool magic items and stuff. That was a great session last night. So, and because we were rewarded with stuff, and that's what this is about.
Right. And so, yeah, you can reward your players with more tangible rewards like that. Recipes for alchemical potions.
Templates for a new starship.
For a new starship.
Or engine for a starship. Or
a new engine for a starship that their mechanic can install that makes your ship go one speed category faster. But it makes it go faster than a stock freighter, and it takes up no hard points. You know, things like that. That's the kind of rewards that you could do.
And you could totally relate and create a whole adventure getting a reward such as that, right, Tony? I mean, you could go to, go steal, you heard of a rival smuggler gang is developing this item or something, or you want to go steal the plans from some plant, that starship plant that's making this or something, some sort of, internal corporate espionage going on. That could be a fun adventure, and go get it. So, yeah.
Right. Yep. Item attachments. There's another thing. Not just starship attachments, but weapon attachments. There are lots of weapon attachments out there. And a lot of your players, there's a joke going around the Nerds International community, players don't read anything. So a lot of players don't read the book of Terranoth or the wonderful book of Genesis. They don't read all of these books. They don't go through the attachment section like GMs do and go, okay, this is really cool.
I'll tell you this right now, just to give you a little hint there, Tony. Hint, 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 nudge, nudge, nudge. If a character such as a dwarven warrior, such as my character, would want an iron-bound rune to put in his armor, it's a rarity 10 item, and it has no price. So you know what? Doesn't matter how much money Tony rewards my character. I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to have to go find that sucker somewhere. It might be end of the campaign, before the big bad evil guy, end of the campaign, if that's what he has planned for us. I don't know. That I actually find this rune, but he's constantly maybe trying to find it now.
And that's something, as players, go out there, see something you want. You know it might be unattainable, but it's going to be something, hey, a motivation for your character to not sit around on his laurels and be out adventuring. There's a I don't know who wrote it a long time ago, but rich people don't adventure. Okay, the reason why I don't give my players a lot of money is because they tend to stay in cities and not go adventuring. They don't go out and do quests and stuff like that. If you don't,
because they got money. Why would
they're flush with money. If you keep them poor, keep them hungry, they will go for more.
Yeah,
but that's just a running joke. But I have a little GM pro tip I'd like to share here. So,
go for it.
When you're putting loot on NPCs, things that the NPCs are going to have that the characters are going to find, or maybe something that's in a chest, a good limiter is using the rarity of the item as opposed to its cost as a limiter on the loot. Item rarity 3 or less at character creation. So a lot of times anything higher than that, they'd have to role play finding it, basically. Increasing the rarity level available every 100 earned XP to a maximum of 8 or 9. When it comes to rarity level 10 things, they're usually not priced. And so those things are going to be once in a campaign or even twice in a campaign type rewards that you give to your players. And keep it fair. If you give your scout a dagger that talks to an alien intelligence, then maybe you also give your dwarven fighter some gauntlets that allow him to punch werewolves in the nuts.
That's true.
Keep your rewards generally fair across the party, but and in the case like I did last night in our adventure, I'm going to use that as an example. I created magic items for Terranoth using the templates that they have for magic items in the Terranoth book. I created individual ones, even just took some of the book ones and gave them new individualized names and then drew up a really nice description of the item. Now, these are now items. I mean, we had a player, a good example, Puss, our catfolk. She had an elven bow that was magical. They gave her the bow was awesome.
Yeah.
But she was given this other awesome bow by the church that rewarded the players for finding an evil artifact. She was given this other awesome bow that was equally awesome. And instead of going, I don't know which bow to use, she immediately took the new one because it was a gift.
Yes.
Players will keep gifts given to them by NPCs for a long time. Even if it is a mundane item, but it's got a couple of cool extra qualities, like it's just neatly crafted. Maybe it's more accurate, or maybe it's superior quality. Anything like that. If it's given to them by an NPC as a reward for something they did, they tend to keep it.
Yeah.
So just
Absolutely.
keep. So you have any trip tips there, Chris?
The one that I have that I wrote, and I've been kind of thinking about this whole time as well, is listen to your players as they kibitz amongst each other's at the table. You'll get ideas. They'll give you ideas. Just listen to them when they're talking about that. Listen to what they want their characters to, what they're doing with their characters, where they may want to take their characters or something like that. Maybe items that they go to the market to buy. I don't know, if we have somebody saying, "Oh man, my armor kind of sucks and need better armor." put that in your mental Rolodex. You know, that item means something to them or something. But you'll just hear you'll hear it. You'll trust me when you tune it now. Now that I've said it and you've heard me say it, I think a couple times now. Listen to your players. You'll start hearing them. Because all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, I said it out loud. Oh, I didn't know there was a water tower there, and now every time I drive by the damn water tower, I see it. So, and I never realized it before, you know.
All right. Well, yeah, folks, that's pretty much it for giving rewards. There's another cool reward, not really tangible, but titles, things like that, lands, things like that. If you're, if you're in a medieval setting, knighting someone is kind of a cool deal.
We were knighted last night, and I immediately changed my name in what do you call it, in Fantasy Grounds there to Sirvorn.
That's right.
Yeah, you're gonna call me Sir. I'm a knight, yo.
I'm a knight of the Riverwatch, boy.
Knight of the Riverwatch. Yeah, boy.
All right, awesome. So that is it.
All right, so on to setting the tone then, Tony?
Sure.
All right, so in setting the tone, we're going to talk about our two settings here and how we've applied experience points, spending experience points, rewarding experience points, what that kind of means in our settings. Tony, do you want to go first?
Sure. So in Middle Earth, it's not. I'm not doing anything different other than we kind of alluded to it before. I turned the virtues into something that the characters gain when they hit XP milestones. Whenever they hit a 50-point XP milestone, so every 50, 100, 150, 200 earned XP, they're going to get a virtue from their culture. So if you look at the stuff from Cubicle 7, that means like for dwarves they have like the runes. If they have rune casting, they also have one that they can do that makes them better in battle. Each one of them's a little different, and like in the rune casting one, it's even got 3 different tiers to it, so you can learn a new rune with each one. So that's pretty much it. They're not nice. They're not super involved. Most of the time, the early ones that you can get are a boost die here and there, or a skill, a rank in a skill that you wouldn't normally have, things like that.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
That was easy.
Yeah, that was easy for you. So for me, I've got something similar going on. In Primeval Thule, milestones for the narratives. So in Primeval Thule, when you create your character, one part of the character creation process is creating a narrative. Picking a narrative for your character. So for instance, if you pick Bearer of the Black Book, there's something that has arcane magic. They have this single black book that they want to protect, and at character creation, they get this arcane familiarity. You get a boost die to arcane checks. You have this eldritch power where one succession, you can have 1 success and 1 automatic one automatic advantage on an arcana skill check when casting a spell. Well, when you hit milestone 1, you get something called Hidden Insight, where you will always reduce the difficulty of the Dispel type by 1. And again, the milestones that I have were if you're more on like a quicker campaigns pace, milestone 1 would be at 100 XP. Milestone 2 would be at 250 XP. A normal campaign pace would be at 200 earned XP. You would get milestone 1, and at 400 earned XP, you'd get milestone 2. And then slow would be 300 and 600 earned XP. And then, so I have...
But yours only has the 3 tiers to it.
The 3 tiers, right? At character creation, milestone 1, and then milestone 2. And it's one of those things where if anybody out there picks this up and wants to roll with it and add more milestone tiers, feel free. The other thing that I did, and I didn't have it in the show notes, and I just thought about it right now, was the only other thing that I'm doing in Primeval Thule that you can spend experience points on is what I call merits and hindrances.
Yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah, me too. Until we were just talking about this. Let me go down to it to give you guys some examples.
So they're very much like merits and flaws from like White Wolf's system, basically, where you take a flaw, it gives you XP, or a hindrance, you spend XP on a merit.
Yes, and at character creation, they're only given at character creation where you have to spend them, and they could be something used as a quote-unquote gift from a reward, maybe from a GM or something like that.
Or even a result of a critical hit in the case of a flaw.
There you go. Absolutely. So you could purchase up to 20 experience points of hindrances when you create your characters. And you can and they're either 5 XP or 10 XP. And then you have merits that you can spend as many as you want. There's minor and major ones. So let's see an example of a hindrance. I have a major hindrance here called frail. The character has an amazingly weak constitution. Add a boost die or add a setback die to all resilience checks, and add 10 to all critical hit rolls against them. It's as if they've got they're like, I don't know, Mr. Glass. Right? And then there's a minor one here called Heavy Sleeper, which is kind of like how I am. Anyways, requires a significant amount of light, noise, or movement to awaken. Once awakened, the character suffers an additional setback die to all rolls for the encounter that awakened him, for instance. And that's a minor one. That would grant you 5 experience points to be spent on something else like a merit. And an example of a merit would be Herbalist. Minor. The character knows more than the average person about herb craft and gains a boost die to all medicine checks.
Very nice.
A major one would be, and this is something that I think, and then an example of maybe a major one would be Gifted. The character is extremely talented in one particular skill. Choose one skill and add a boost die to all skill checks with that skill. And it becomes a career skill if it's not already. And you can't purchase it more than once. And it may not be purchased to benefit a skill that already receives a bonus from another merit. So you can't purchase it. Basically, you can really only be gifted in one thing. You know what I mean? So, but you can change that if you guys want to.
So very cool, dude.
So that's other things you can spend your experience points on, or reward your players with.
There you go.
Cool.
Okay. Well, that's it for setting the tone. We're going to move on over into Advantageous Threats. So, welcome to your favorite section of the show and ours, Advantageous Threats. This is where Chris and I do a little scenario, roll some dice, have some fun. I'm going to start off here with a carryover from last session. My character, Hemlock Jones, the Kung Fu using PI.
I love that name. Dude, I love that name.
I do have a knack for naming. In a 70s crime game, is fighting off a minion group of 4, now 5, armed thugs in a back alley using the street tough NPCs on page 134 of the Genesys core book. And we're behind a bar. I don't know if I said that. But Hemlock has a Brawn 3 and a Brawl 3, talents multiple opponents, and Master of Brawling. He survived his first round, taking 6 of 14 wounds and 5 strain. And it is his turn in round 2. He must succeed at a daunting athletics check or coordination, or remain immobilized because they kind of climbed on top of him.
Oh, there is that.
Circled him. Yeah, he can't move. So he chooses instead to stand his ground and fight, hoping to generate enough triumph and advantage to negate that immobilized from previously. So, so in this case, Hemlock has a brawn of 3, so he's going to have a brawn of 3, so it's going to give him 3 dice, and a brawl of 3, so those 3 are going to be upgraded to yellow dice. So I'm digging in my dice bag here, and I'm not finding anything yellow. They must be all down at the bottom. There's 2.
I'm trying to find a street tough here.
Page 134, home slice.
I've got them. You mean 135 PDF-wise? No.
So built in for a brawl check, it is 2 purple difficulty. Mm-hmm. However, my GM has probably given me at least 1 setback die for the rain. I do believe it was. There was one for the rain.
There was one for the rain. And because now granted this is a group of guys. It's typically it is typically a brawl. Now you're standing and fighting.
Yes, I'm standing and fighting. I am not trying to maneuver, which also means that because I'm immobilized, I can't take a maneuver to aim. Oh
my!
Because I've been fending all these blows, I can't move. I'm gonna fight back.
Coolness. So with this, I would definitely want to spend a story point here.
I too would like to, so I'll just go ahead and add my green die for that because I think Hemlock is backed into a corner and he would definitely want to.
Yep.
Fight.
And these guys are getting. They know they have you on the ropes. They have you backed against a corner, and that's why we're upgrading this a little bit. And it's getting a little serious.
Okay.
It's a bit serious.
So. Right now we're looking at a 3 yellow, 1 green on the positive side, and 1 of each color on the negative side. So.
And then, do you have the black setback in there?
I do. I have 1.
Sweet. All right. Oh, you said 1 of each color. Duh.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to roll this up.
Rock on.
All right. First of all, no failures came up. So.
What? How about that despair? Nope.
Despair did not come up. I rolled net 2 threat and 4 successes. So in this case, 4 successes plus my martial arts damage. It looks like I'm going to take out probably 2 minions. Maybe.
How much damage do you do?
It's going to be brawn plus 2. So his brawn is 3. So a total of 5 plus 4 uncancelled successes. Total of 9.
Total of 9. Okay. Well, they have a soak of 4.
Oh, sorry. That's right. Forgot soak.
Yep. So that's a soak of 4. So yeah, you clock one of these guys in the mouth. Totally takes him down. But your threat though is you kind of had to overextend yourself and you slipped just a little bit. And you've kind of opened yourself up for this next punch that they're going to get on you. So I'm going to give them a boost die to hit you when they go.
All right. So I've let my defenses down a bit because of trying to keep my balance.
Yes. Even though you're mobilized.
Yeah.
You're still kind of you're suffering from that crit. So
I'm hoping that Hemlock survives. This will unfortunately end in a cliffhanger because I'm not going to go back through this check again. So Hemlock will. Unfortunately, you'll not know what happens to him.
That's right.
Aww. All right, because Hemlock makes me roll boring rolls. Yeah. So but it was fairly exciting because I'm picturing the rain, I'm picturing the dark alley. You just getting jumped, and I wanna watch Big Trouble in Little China. No, I think that's what it made me think of. Okay,
even though it is set in the 70s and whatever. Let's see. Okay. So I have Gunnery Lieutenant Winchester. He is commanding a deck of cannons on the HMS Surprise. Yes,
nice ship.
It's out of McKeewa's book, and nice. The Brits named that ship the Surprise when it surprised a French freighter, I believe. And yes, everybody, I learned that from Akiwa's book. I'm smarter now. Yes, that little tidbit of info was in there. That was just awesome.
Nice.
So, let's see. So page.
So this ship is it says here you have it. It's a three-masted.
Three-masted Silhouette 4 Surprise class ship with 44 guns, but they're 24 9-pounders on the deck he's commanding. So there's 12 on each side. So we're going to broadside off of the one side. So basically, I have to get my cannoneers back in line right now because we just took a volley of cannon shots out on the open seas here. So I need to make a leadership check to get these guys to listen to me and get in line and quickly reload these cannons and get this shot off first. So let's see. So I'm going to make a leadership check against a group. Now, you see I put a group size here of 16 to 50. So I'm picturing, and I don't know much about ships or anything, but I do believe, seeing some of these movies, there's at least 2 to 3 men per gun. 2 to 3 men per gun. We have 12 guns, so we're talking at least 24 people. So it's in this daunting leadership check range, okay?
Sure.
So I've got a presence of 3, being a lieutenant, and he does have a leadership of 2, so I'm going to upgrade those. So I've got 2 yellow and a green, and then I'm going to do a daunting leadership check, which is 4.
Now, you said that you guys had just taken a broadside from the enemy, so
it's
I'm
very
figuring
chaotic. It's
very,
loud.
very chaotic in here. When I see the ship battles, I see cannonballs coming in. Yes, there's smoke everywhere. There's people shouting, men dying. I'm going to give you 2 setback dice for the circumstances.
All right. You're going to give me 2 setback dice there, but I remember that Lieutenant Winchester is commanding this group of cannoneers for a reason, because he actually has a knack for it. So so I did pick knack for it for leadership, and that will remove those 2 away from me. So maybe he has a big daddy voice that everybody can hear now, all the way to the other end. And I'm going to spend a story point here to upgrade this check, because it's fairly important I get another shot off.
Okay. But I don't see a narrative reason for a despair here, so I'm not going to upgrade your difficulty.
Okay. Coolness. All right, so I've got 3 yellow and 4 purples here. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so my threats cancel. Okay. So I am left with 1 success, actually. 2 of the difficulty die came up blank, and I had 2 threat and 2 successes, 2 advantage and 2 other 2 successes getting canceled out by the threat and failures on the other dice. So left with 1 simple success.
That 1 simple success
is all I need for these guys to go, oh, yes, sir. Let's start putting these cannons in, and we'll be able to. Hopefully, the HMS Surprise will survive.
All right.
So that wasn't too exciting, but it kind of is, because I can hear like Pirates of the Caribbean music.
Right. No, and that's just it. I mean, sometimes the die rolls aren't that exciting. Sometimes just describing the encounter and the narrative of everything that's going on around makes it feel more exciting than the die roll is going to leave you with. But that's cool. That's all right. So in this case, they do hear you, and they do just get the cannons in line, and they're not getting anything special out of it, nor are they suffering for it. Nice.
Yeah, and the surprise class, it was a frigate on page 8 of that. What do you call it? In Makiwa's document.
Awesome.
It was pretty cool. So the HMS Surprise was the name of the Royal Navy gave to the French Navy's corvette Unte after her capture.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
So very cool.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome stuff.
All right. So that's pretty much it. Shall we head on over and kick this pig?
Let's do that. All right, everybody, that's our show. I'd like to give a shout out to the Dragon Toolbox again, Mr. Stefan Dragonspawn, with his random gaming musings and his latest blog. There's always something going on in the city and in the wilds. So yeah, think about that. He's at the dragontoolbox.blogspot.com.
Okay.
And then we also have a couple other things here, Tony.
Yep, we have coming up again, as we've talked about before, Nerds International Virtual Con number 2, NivCon 2, coming up September 15th and 16th. This will be a virtual convention in which you can get online, play with your hosts, play with the other hosts in the network, play with people in the network, play with people from outside the network. It's a virtual convention. You can attend a convention for free in your underwear.
If you want, you totally can.
Please keep your camera off.
Yeah, typically these games online will be either using probably Roll20, more than likely. I mean, most of them is Fantasy Grounds.
Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, Tabletop Simulator, and there are some people who just do it over Discord.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Tony and
Not just role-playing games. There's also board games on Tabletop Simulator. There's people to get on there. Like last time, Jamie and Matt Stark and myself and Stefan got on and played Munchkin for several hours.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep, and it was just a pickup game. It wasn't scheduled, but that's, get on the Nerds International Discord server, which links are over in the Nerds International community. You will find a lot of people are going to be on that weekend on Discord just offering pickup games. Of things.
Yep.
And then also there's the sign-ups, and those will be in our show notes for the links for the sign-up.
Yep.
So
absolutely. And then in November, the 8th through the 7th, and in Richfield,
8th
Ohio.
Through 11th. 8th through 11th, dude. 8th through the 7th. We are going to travel back in time.
No, dude, you got to be a little more optimistic on that. The November 8th through December 7th. Whole month of gaming, that would be sweet, dude.
I'd be in a coma because we're drinking that entire time.
Yeah, there might be some spirits partaked in. Yeah, so that's Con in the Cobb. Tony and I are both going to be there with our Nerds International buddies. And Andy Hopp running it. He's a cool dude. So yeah, come join us there. That's not free.
Have you figured out what you're going to run yet?
Dude, I don't know if I'm going to run anything. I know we're doing the co-GMing thing.
Yep. And then I'm also running my Vanguard Squadron. Again, a new adventure in Vanguard Squadron.
See, I signed up for all that stuff. I don't think I gave myself time.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's cool. Hey, you can be the board game guru and teach people how to play Epic Spell Wars, because
yes, I can.
Your house rules for that game are pretty damn awesome.
I know. And I got my wife playing it, and she's like, "What is this game?" And then she loves it. And I told her the house rules. She's like, "I'm so not going to do that." And she kind of did it, and she kind of didn't. So yes, honey, I know you'll never probably listen to this, or this far into the podcast.
All right. So yeah, you can find out about all this stuff and all kinds of cool other things going on in our community over at the Google Plus Nerds International with a hyphen community. Great network full of awesome people and awesome shows and blogs. You can get a hold of Chris and I on via email at findingthenarrative@gmail.com, findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. Sorry. You can also Finding the Narrative on Facebook. Talk to me, and I share everything on there with Chris. You can leave us comments on YouTube. We are getting those now. They were going to our junk folder, but we're getting them now. I moved them so that they won't go there.
Nice.
You can listen to us on iTunes, Podbean, and YouTube at Finding the Narrative Podcast.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Well, that's it. And this is Tony saying, keep rolling them bones.
And this is Chris saying, remember the rule of cool and just have fun, everybody. Good night.
Have a good one.
Finding a Narrative Podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding a Narrative Podcast. Copyright 2018, all rights reserved.